Hi everyone, today our topic is how to compare data displays. As a reminder, you do not need to write down everything we'll cover in this video, but be sure to jot down important information and at least one example of each type of problem that we'll cover. Also remember that you can pause the video to jot down important notes, rewind to view information again, and fast forward if you think you got it. But don't fast forward so much that you miss out on something important. So today we're talking about comparing data displays. The data displays we've talked about so far is the dot plot, the histogram, and the box plot. So today we're going to look at them all together and talk about their pros and cons, what makes each of them useful and what also makes each of them not so useful. So none of the three is the best one. They're all good for different situations. So we'll start with the dot plot. The pros, the benefits of using a dot plot with your data set, is that you can see each data point. Each of those dots represents a data point. And then you can easily find the total. You can just count up how many dots there are and you can figure out how many total data sets or data points you have. And you can see each of those numbers in there if you wanted to know each data point. The cons, is that it's not really good if you have too much data. So if for instance I had 200 data scores, that would be a pain for somebody to create this dot plot. And it would be a pain to kind of look through it as well because you have hundreds of dots to look at. So it's not really good if you have a lot of data. You also can't easily see the 5-number summary. You would have to go through the dots and cross out things from front and back to figure out the median, and do that again to figure out quartile 1 and quartile 3. So you have to do some work to find the 5-number summary. So dot plot's not so great with complicated data. Go ahead and jot this down in your notes for the dot plot, and then we're going to move on to the histogram. All right, so the histogram, on the other hand, is really good with organizing a lot of data because we are putting the data into different brackets. We're not just looking at the individual data set. And you can also find the total pretty easily because you can just add up the frequencies on the side. The cons, however, is that you can't really see each data point or their gaps. So with the dot plot, you can see what each person voted on, and you can see some gaps in between. But with the histogram, since you put everybody into a category, it's a little harder to see any gaps because everything's in a category. You also can't find the 5-number summary easily. You would still have to, eliminate points on each side to find the middle and all that kind of stuff. You have to do some calculations. All right, make sure this is in your notebook. And then lastly, we have the box plot. Pros is that you can organize a lot of data with it. You just have to figure out what your 5-number summary is. And it's definitely easy to find your 5-number summary. You can figure out your interquartile range. You can figure out your minimum and your maximum pretty easily. You can figure out the percentages and all that kind of stuff. So really good with a lot of data and figuring out kind of like the big picture with the 5-number summary because it's all organized. Cons is you can't find the total. I have no idea how many data sets or how many data points there is in this one box plot. This could be 4 data scores in there or it could be 400. I don't know what the individual data points are. I also can't see any gaps. I have no idea if this whisker is so long because nobody voted for 8 and 9 or if like a bunch of people voted for 8 and 9. I just have no idea. So I can't really see the details. And I also can't see the frequencies. Like I can't see if a lot of people had 7 or if just like one person or one data point was at 7. So a lot of that detail is missed in the box plot. So I feel like the box plot is almost like the opposite of the dot plot. Dot plot is like you can see every single little detail, but you can't see the big picture, the 5-number summary. And it's terrible for a lot of data. While the box plot is really great for a lot of data, and you can figure out the big picture of the 5-number summary, but you can't figure out the individual data. So histogram kind of like lies in the middle, but it also obviously has its cons as well. Okay. So with today's assignments, you're going to be looking at different data sets, and you're going to figure out which one is better if you're figuring out, if you're asked to make certain decisions. So be sure that you have all these notes down, and we will move on to some examples. All right, first example. It says, Sal counted the number of songs on each album in his collection. He then created both a dot plot and a box plot. So remember the dot one and the box plot to display the same data. Both diagrams are shown below. First question, which display makes it easier to see that the median song is 10 songs? Which one's better to figure out the median? You should have said that it's the box plot. I can easily see that the median is 10 songs here. While this right here, I'm not sure if this is the median, or maybe it could have been 11 or 9. Right here, all I know is the most amount of songs was 10. But most is not the same as the middle. Okay? So, I don't know. I can't see that. It would have to be the box plot. The box plot shows me the middle because it's literally just a line. Next question. Which display allows us to see that the most, is 10 songs? Okay, well, we kind of just talked about that. For the most, it's 10 songs here on the dot plot because I can see a whole bunch of dots there. Okay, the frequency is there. But remember, for the box plot, you don't have frequency. You only have one scale. That's the number of songs. I don't have frequency on the side. I can't tell how many scores actually were at 10. Okay, so there's pluses and minuses for both of them. This is great to see the most. This is great to see the 5-number summary. Okay, so all of the questions will kind of ask you which is best for certain scenarios. Okay. Regina is a realtor and studies housing prices. She recorded the area of each house on Prince Street. She then created 2 histograms to display the data. Histogram A shows the data using a bin width, the category width, of 50, and histogram B shows the same data using a bin width of 100. So same data, they're just showing it differently. One category, one interval is by 50, and the other one is counting by 100. So they're asking which histogram can be used to find how many houses had areas greater than 200 square meters. 200 square meters, which one's better? At finding how many houses have areas greater than 200 square meters? Is it histogram A or histogram B? Or it could be both, or it could be neither. Which one would it be? You should have actually said that both of them show this information. So I'll tell you what I'm talking about. We want to know the amount of houses that have areas greater than 200 square meters. For histogram A, the ones greater than 200 square meters are these 2 bars. This bar is 4, and this bar is 1. So together that's 5. For histogram B, we have just 1 bar that's greater than 200, and that's between 4 and 6, which is 5. So both of them show that same amount of information. I would prefer histogram A because it kind of shows you more of the spread and what that shape looks like, while histogram B is just very vague. It just has 3 bars, so you can't really see any gaps too. See, this one has them all clumped between 0 and 100, so I don't know how many were just above 0 square meters. While here I can see, oh, none of them were between 0 and 50. And then it starts picking up at 50. While here I don't see that information. It's just kind of one big category. So in general, I would say the smaller your intervals are, the better. But in this question, both of them serve the purpose of telling us how many are 200 square meters and above. So for this question, both are good to show that. Okay, let's do one last one. Nam owns a used car lot. He checked the odometers of the cars and recorded how far they had driven. He then created both a histogram and a dot plot to display the same data. So same data, just different diagrams. Here is the histogram, here is the box plot. First question, which display can be used to find how many vehicles had driven more than 200,000 kilometers? More than, how many? Okay, so they want to know the frequency when they ask how many. Go ahead and think to yourself which one is better. Okay, whenever you're trying to figure out frequency, you should know that the box plot is not a good fit because the box plot doesn't tell you frequency. I have no idea how many of these occurred and how many times, right? But for the histogram, I can tell the ones that were more than 200,000 kilometers. This is in thousands of kilometers, so we're talking about these. It's 3 for this bar and 2 for this bar. So it's 5 total that were greater than 200,000. Here, I have no idea. I just have a straight line. I don't know how many data sets or data scores were made up this straight line because this straight line is just connecting my maximum and my quartile 3. So I don't have any frequencies here. So if you want to have frequencies, histograms and dot plots are the best bet for those. Histograms and dot plots are the best bet. Box plots don't tell you frequency. Second question, which display can be used to find the median distance was approximately 140,000 kilometers. Median, remember, is the middle. So which one is the best for that? You should have figured out that it is the box plot. The box plot, you can tell that it's about 140. This line is 1 down from 150 and it's going by tens, so it's about 140. For this histogram, I would have to like add up all these frequencies, cross stuff out from the beginning and the end to figure out the median. I could probably still figure it out, but I would have to do some calculations. I can't just look at it and figure out that it's 140. I would have no idea that if it was even in this bracket, what that number is. So even if I did count it up and stuff, I only have the categories. I don't even have these individual numbers. So it's actually impossible from a histogram now that I think about it, because I only know that there's 3 numbers that are between 0 and 50. I have no idea what those numbers are. So even if I wanted to, I couldn't find the median there. Box plot is the only bet there. For a dot plot, I could still kind of try and figure it out with some calculations, but histogram, I have no numbers. I just have categories. Okay, so they all have pros and cons. Let me know if you have any questions as you work on these problems, and just remember that it should be pretty obvious which one's easier to figure out that question. If you have to do some calculations, probably doesn't make that graphical display the best one. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you in class.